Yo, Mark Ellert here. Today, everybody, I want to talk to you about forgiveness. I'm not talking about forgiving homie for stealing your drink when you were in the bathroom. I'm talking about self-forgiveness. It's something that's important to me, and two big pieces for that are self-love and self-compassion. Those are things that help me with self-forgiveness. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a suicide survivor. That's how I lost my vision. September 12th, 2004, age 19, I attempted suicide by putting a gun to my head. It obviously resulted in a traumatic brain injury, and that took my vision, as well as with my brain injury, I have permanent brain damage, so it was difficult for me to rehabilitate myself. Over the years, it took a lot of time and a lot of work. And over those years, it was really easy for me to just beat myself up. I had a lot of guilt and a lot of regret that I had a hard time letting go of. I would really hold on to that and really beat myself up. All I would do was perpetually just ask myself questions I didn't want to answer. I'd be like, man, what did you do? Why did you do this? Look what you did. All I did was just comment and reflect on the things I didn't want to think about. I would remind myself of the life I destroyed. I would remind myself of the things that I threw away that I didn't have anymore. Remind myself of how much I was struggling to rehabilitate myself and do this. You know, I didn't need that. On top of the mental and emotional distress I was already dealing with, it was hard enough admitting what I did. It was hard enough accepting my brain injury and the changes that came with it. It was hard enough rehabilitating myself, going from 20/20 vision to total blindness. Again, there's a lot of mental and emotional distress tied to it. There's also physical pain. Shit, I had a traumatic brain injury. My right orbital socket was completely shattered and had to be rebuilt. My whole left cheekbone was completely shattered and rebuilt. Both sides of my jaw were broken, dislocated, and completely rebuilt. I have brain damage. I have a lot of pains that I actually already deal with. So again, I don't need to compound it and add more to what I've dealt with. Over the years, I was able to reach in and find that self-love and self-compassion. I realized what I was doing was perpetually beating myself up and making things worse. I didn't need to do that to myself. So I started reminding myself, when I would find myself beat myself up and saying things, I would change gears. I'd be like, dot, 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 dot. I would stop myself from doing that, knowing how it was going to affect me. I would remind myself of other things. Rather than asking, why did I do that? I would remind myself, you know why? You know why? I would step back and find that self-love and self-compassion. I'd remind myself that I was a really, really troubled youth. I struggled with things a lot in my childhood. I was traumatized. I never talked to anyone about it. I had a lot of abandonment and rejection issues, had a lot of insecurities. I didn't ever talk about my problems. At that age, I was struggling with a lot. I had access to a gun. So I had my reasons, and I actually do remind myself of that. I had my reasons. I try not to beat myself up. Instead of beating myself up, I also remind myself how far I've come. It's been 18 years now. I'm very high functioning and independent. Living on my own for almost a decade, and I'm able to do a lot for myself. I've been able to find that self-love and self-compassion. I forgive myself. I set goals to do things I want to do, and I don't beat myself up and hold that over my head for the regrets that I have. I've already dealt with enough. I want to remind you, you don't have to also hold those guilts. You don't have to beat yourself up when you've been struggling with things. Remind yourself how hard it's already been. Remind yourself that you deserve to be happy and you deserve good things. You don't need to stay in that mindset to not be happy with yourself. And everybody, one reason why this is very important to me, 2 days ago, Sunday, December 11th, was actually the 18-year anniversary of me being released from the hospital. And now just when I woke up and going through the day, I didn't think about it. To me, it was just another day. The anniversary didn't really hold too much weight. But throughout the day, at a certain point, my subconscious actually let me know and reminded me. After work, Sunday, I was running around doing some errands. At one point doing those errands when I was at the store getting some things, I had an anxiety attack settle in. It was not easy. My anxiety attacks are really bad. I have a general high anxiety disorder that I can manage the day with the right medications and with the right therapy, but sometimes I will actually have a full-blown anxiety attack, and they're not easy. My body basically completely shuts down. It's that like a fight, flight, or freeze moment. My body feels like it's in extreme, immediate danger, and it basically shuts down everything that is actually not necessary to function and survive. I basically completely shut down. When people see me have a full-blown anxiety attack like that, they get really paranoid. They want to call paramedics, call 911, or do something. They're under the impression I actually had a stroke or something, because I'm basically non-responsive. I won't respond to people when they're communicating with me. I'm off in my own world doing something. Like I said, it's a complete shutdown. I'm not functioning. Because also, I will find habits. It's my brain remembering that I can't see things around me. It's a feeling of loss of control. It's basically feeling like I can't understand the reality that I'm surrounded by. I'm not receiving information I normally would. Without the visuals, I literally feel like I have no control or sense of anything around me. It's like a complete loss. Basically, it feels like I'm just spinning in oblivion and I just don't get it. So there's times when that happens, I'll be frantically just reaching around me and trying to find things that aren't there. I'll be digging around for things and I'll be searching my body and I just won't be responding to people when they're talking to me. But after an hour of this yesterday at the store, I finally came out of it and I was responsive. I explained to people it's an anxiety disorder. I got back home, was able to just let go of the day. About an hour later, I went over to my neighbor's house. My neighbor, they're also homebound. So as a good neighbor, I try to be courteous. I help them run their errands and do things. I went back to their place to help them with their groceries. I explained what happened. I had another anxiety attack. In their house, I wasn't there for about an hour. I was gone. About an hour later, I woke up. And that's when I was actually sitting on their kitchen floor playing with my jacket. Because again, it was a moment of emotional distress where I didn't feel like I had an understanding or control of my surroundings. So I was digging through my coat pockets. I physically ripped the patch off of my coat pocket. I ripped the hole in my coat pocket and I completely ripped the trim of the coat all the way around. Like I said, sometimes when I'm having that anxiety attack, I'm in a moment of complete and utter distress. I'm freaking out. But I have my reasons for that. I don't beat myself up for it. I actually remind myself, you know what? I struggled with my mental illness a lot in my youth and I never addressed it. I had attempted suicide. I have brain damage. I had a brain injury. I went from 20/20 vision to total blindness. It's something I'm still in the process of adapting and adjusting to. I give myself that self-love and compassion. I remind myself what I've been through and what I've done because I've already been through so much. I don't need to beat myself up and hold it against me or hold it over my head. I'm allowed to have that self-love and self-compassion. I'm allowed to have those anxiety attacks considering everything that I've been through. I'm only human. I remind myself that I'm human and I can't be perfect. It's normal for us in nature to have our flaws, so I allow those flaws. I exist and I'm the way that I am. I have my flaws, everyone, but I'm able to forgive myself because I know I can't be perfect. I can't be perfect and nobody can. It's just human nature. I'm also allowed to have those emotions and those feelings, but I have those feelings and I process and work through them. I don't hold on to it. I don't want to stay in that mental and emotional distress. That's why I go to therapy, everyone, because I'm human. I'm allowed to feel and process those emotions. I leave it in therapy. I work through that and I could beat myself up a little bit, but yeah, you gotta give myself a hard time, but I leave it there in therapy. I come home and remind myself of everything that I've done and how far I've come because I have self-love and I have self-compassion. I've been able to forgive myself, everyone. If I can forgive myself over the years, I know anybody can. Really remind yourself of the things that you can do and that you have done. Don't beat yourself up for the things that you can't change and that you've had reasons for. Everybody, self-forgiveness, self-love, and self-compassion. I hope you all have a great, happy holidays, and remind yourself, if you're home by yourself on the holidays, it's not your fault. You love yourself, have forgiveness for yourself and compassion. Doesn't mean there's something wrong with you and it's not your fault. Holidays sometimes are not easy for a lot of people, and I understand. I know those feelings, everyone. Process and work through it when you need to. But everyone, happy holidays. And until next time, I will catch you on the flip side. Make good choices, love yourself.